Hey guys, so this week I'm going to be doing my 15-week update, and there is so much to say this week. I know every week pretty much with this pregnancy I've said that I haven't had any real symptoms or anything major to update you guys on, but this week has been a hectic one. For starters, everything was going perfectly fine until we decided to take our trip to Disney. As a lot of you know, I've posted a zillion pictures on Instagram, and I posted some of the videos already of our trip on YouTube. So we went on this trip, and a lot of people were commenting on those videos asking me why I was in a wheelchair. So I'll go ahead and explain what happened, and I've really debated saying everything in detail with my pregnancy updates, but my husband was actually the one that popped out the phone. We didn't have the camera, so he just popped out his cell phone and he's like, let's film this. And I was so not ready to film. I was not in the mood. I was really an emotional wreck, and I told him, please stop, I'm not gonna film right now. And he's like, look, it's moments like this that it's the real thing. You gotta film and show the real thing. So I agreed with him and I let him film, and he really just spoke the whole time. And I'm gonna go ahead and insert that clip in a little bit. But basically we went to Disney on a spontaneous trip, and I've been perfectly fine this entire time. So we walked, the first day we went to Magic Kingdom and we walked, everything seemed to be fine. I did feel a little kind of sick right before we walked into the park, just because it was almost 2 p.m. when we got there, and it was really hot. We had no food in our system, so I just felt really weak and really dizzy, and it just felt really just bad. So that kind of started off as like the first time I ever really felt sick during my entire pregnancy. However, I didn't throw up or anything like that. I just really genuinely didn't feel good. I felt dizzy. I felt like everything was spinning, and I was really hot and cold and just not feeling like myself. So that went away after I had like a little piece of chocolate. Then we ate. I felt so much better, and we went along our day. We walked a lot and everything was fine. I felt perfectly fine. We got home, we had dinner, we probably went to bed around 11 or midnight. And the next day, we're gonna go to Epcot, and when I was kind of waking up, I felt a lot of pressure, like how I felt towards the end of my pregnancy with Arya. And I felt that was very strange, and I wasn't quite sure what it was. And this is gonna get really personal, and this is kind of what I was debating talking about or not. So if you are my dad, who just caught me on YouTube, he found my videos and send them to me, so it was pretty funny. So if you are watching this, it's time to stop watching, or any friends or anything like that, because this is gonna get weird. But if you're generally interested in pregnancy symptoms and all that, just continue watching. And basically I was showering and I felt really weird. I felt like I was about to give birth, which was strange because I'm so early in my pregnancy. So I kind of was just I guess examining myself, not too crazy. I kind of just felt a little bit, because I felt like the baby's head was about to come out. So I kind of just felt around, and I felt, obviously not a head, but I felt something strange that was kind of out of place, and I didn't know what it was, and I completely freaked out. I ran outside. I was really nervous and scared. I was an emotional wreck. I told my husband, we Googled it, and he found out, I guess, that it was my cervix. So when we called my doctor, and thankfully he was the OBGYN on call, so he called me back immediately. Within 5 minutes he called me back, and he told me that if it was my cervix that was lowering, that it's extremely too early for that to be happening, but it's okay if it's just lowered. But if I was starting to dilate, then that was a problem, because it's way too early and they would need to stitch me up to kind of close me up and make sure that nothing comes out. So he got me really nervous and said that I needed to immediately go into the hospital and get checked and have tests done and all this stuff. So I explained to him that I wasn't in Miami and that I was in Orlando, and he said it doesn't matter, just run to your nearest hospital and get checked. So that's what we did, and we spent probably 6 hours or 5 hours at the hospital. And they did an ultrasound, they did blood work, they gave me an IV, they did a lot of tests. And obviously my doctor came in and examined me, and he did say that my cervix was lowered, but that I was not dilating. So it was a good sign. The baby was doing fine. Everything else was perfectly fine. All my blood work and everything came back perfect. It was just that my cervix did lower, and I think it was all the walking. I think that, you know how they tell you to walk to induce labor? I think I did so much walking that it just wasn't good for me. So the doctor at the hospital told me that I cannot do any more walking, that he understands we're on vacation, but that I need to get a wheelchair for the remaining days that I was there and to lay low until I see my OBGYN. So after I got the IV and after being in a wheelchair for 1 day, I felt so much better. I kind of checked myself again that night and it was completely gone. So it definitely improved, I guess, within those 2 days. And I did use the wheelchair until we left Disney. So every day I used the wheelchair after that. And now I feel perfectly fine, but that was definitely a huge scare. And I'll go ahead and insert that clip right now of the actual moment when we were rushing out of the hotel to the hospital and all of the emotions that were running. And I guess my husband vlogging because I was not in the mood. But I'll go ahead and insert that clip right now.
Hey guys, we're having a little hiatus from our Disney vacation. Adriana was in the shower this morning.
Okay, that's way too much information.
And she felt, you know, something in her vagina area inside. So she asked me to check as well, and I noticed that there was a bit more something that's always in there was a little more protruding and lower than normal. So, you know, we Googled a little bit and found out that it was the cervix. So we called the doctor. You know, hold it so you come out a little better because you're coming out
That's
white.
fine, I don't want to come.
And then, so we called her gyno, and he was the one on call. So he told her that if the cervix is lowered a little bit, it's not a big deal. It's a little early for that, but that's not a big deal. But if the cervix is lowered and dilated, that it could be, you know, potential for some issues. So we, you know, called a couple urgent care centers around Lake Buena Vista, and they were all, none of them had an ultrasound machine. So I found a hospital. It's like about 5 minutes away. So we're about to get to the hospital, and we're gonna check to make sure that everything's okay. The monkey, you want to say a few words? She's a little sad, mostly worried about, you know, anything happening to the baby. But, you know, if the cervix is lowered, which most likely is just what's gone on, it's a little early, but it's no big deal. So hopefully that's what it is. All right, we'll keep you guys updated. Okay, bye guys.
So besides that, I finally told work. I thought it was the perfect timing. Right after I got back from our trip, I told my VP, and then I told my, I guess, acting manager. And they were pleasantly, obviously they were surprised, but they were really positive about it, which is not what I was expecting. I've been debating this as well, creating this video of this really bad experience I had with Aria's pregnancy related to my job. But I think it's really important, just because if any of you have gone through this, it's important to know what you could have done, what I could have done, and try to prevent this situation. So I don't know why this pregnancy I decided not to tell people. I just felt that I didn't need to tell anybody yet. At work, obviously, I told my friends and my family, but at work, for some reason, I was holding it. And when I was pregnant with Aria, I held it for a really long time. I was probably 5.5 months pregnant when I started telling people at work. And that actually had a reasoning behind it. I was in between interviews and about to get a promotion to a different department. So I didn't want to tell anybody I was pregnant, just because I was in that process. And disclosing this information, even though it is very legal, it could have affected my promotion. This time around, I was not interviewing, I was not looking for another job. I was simply not wanting to talk about my pregnancy until I was ready to talk about it, or until my body kind of just was showing too much to hold it back. However, I ended up getting a promotion probably the week before we went to Disney, and the week after Disney, which was probably 4 days after I got the promotion, I told everybody I was pregnant. So it was a huge surprise, but it is within my department, so they're very lenient. I've been in the same department for, it's gonna be 5 years now, so I've been in the same company for over 6 years, so it's really good, and it's a really good move. I'm very excited about it, but I just felt so bad because when they offered me the promotion, I kind of thought in my head, thank God I haven't said I was pregnant. And then I was like, how am I gonna just push all this information out right after I get a promotion? But in reality, it's none of their business. But that's besides the point. I finally told work. Everybody was super happy, super excited. I got a lot of, oh my God, you're already pregnant, which, you know, was a little uncalled for, but it was fun. Most people were happy and excited, and especially my VP, which is the one person I was so scared of telling. He told me, you know, that's the best. My kids are 22 months apart, and it's amazing. I wouldn't have it any other way. They've grown up playing with each other, and it's awesome. So that's really good. And then my acting manager, his kids, his daughters are 15 months apart. So everybody was super nice. Aria and this baby number 2, I don't know if it's a girl or boy yet, but Aria and baby number 2 will be 20 months apart. Something like that. Unless, something I might add, when I went to the hospital in Orlando and they did the ultrasound, they did say I was 1 to 2 weeks more than what we were originally told. So I have my gender ultrasound coming up it's on January 31st. So there I will ask them again how far along I am, because they're giving me different dates, so I don't really know which date to go by. So on that note, I'm so excited about this ultrasound. One, I feel like I haven't seen the baby in a long time, even though I just saw the baby at the hospital, but it wasn't the same because it was an emergency ultrasound, so they were really just trying to see the baby, making sure everything was fine, and it wasn't come see your baby and that happy ultrasound experience. So it was no fun actually, and I didn't really get to see it. I was laying this way and the monitor was kind of, I guess the screen was facing that way. So my husband did get to see it, and he actually took some video clip on his phone. So I'll go ahead and add that to this so you guys can see the ultrasound, because normally we can't film at the ultrasound, they don't let us. So I just told him film, and if they say anything, just stop filming. But just say, oh, I did not know. You're at the hospital. You don't know any better. Okay guys, so here is the baby bump. It is pretty popped out. Everybody at work was like, oh my God, you popped out so much. But here is the bump at 15 weeks. And it's pretty big. It's much bigger than Aria. And I love this dress because it kind of just really shows off that I am pregnant. So I love it. So here is the belly, the bare belly at 15 weeks. And from the other side. And that's it, guys. That's the belly.